the guy G Holy repping Gillie.com, and 50 is a genius. Like, we know 50 is a evil genius. Marketing, branding, promotion. I mean, he's done it 100 times. But in his book, he said a few things that I really just couldn't let go, because though he's genius, he might have a skewed perspective of what actually happened with Gillie Da Kid. So for full context, I'll add the audio into what I'm saying right here.
Saw this happen firsthand with a Philadelphia rapper named Gillie Da Kid. He was brought to my attention by the legendary Philly disc jockey, Cosmic Kev. At the time, I was riding sky high off my first couple of albums and constantly had people pitching me their artists. Kev was seasoned, so he knew the best way to get my attention was to approach me humbly. Yo, I never asked you for anything, he told me, which was true. But I need one favor. I need you to listen to Gillie's joint, because this is going to pop. I had a lot of respect for Kev, so I gave it a listen. He was right. It felt like a hit. I liked the song so much, I decided I would walk Gillie into Interscope. If you're not familiar with that term, it means that instead of making him pitch his music to an A&R person, I would personally take his music to the executives in charge. Having someone walk you in is what you want as an artist. It allows you to bypass all the lower level people and talk directly to the top brass. It's especially valuable if the person walking you in just sold 25 million records for the label. Then you really got everyone's attention. I played Gillie's song for one of the top executives. At first, they weren't as sold as I was. Then I told them my plan. Listen, I don't think it makes sense to put Gillie on G-Unit, I explained. I didn't know if his sound would mesh with what we were doing at the time. But if you guys sign him, I'll give the project my full support. I'll put the battery in his pack. The executive said, okay, that changes things. Let's do it. If I co-signed it, they knew it was going to sell. We sent word back to Gillie that there was a deal on the table at Interscope. I forgot how much they were offering, but I remember it being fair. Evidently, Gillie didn't see it the same way. Nah, fuck that, he replied when Kev told him the number. They got to give me $1 million to sign. I was surprised at his response, but out of respect for Kev, I went back and told the execs what he wanted. They felt it was way out of line for someone without much of a track record. They were willing to bring him on, but not for $1 million outright. Gillie wouldn't budge. People tried to talk to him, telling him that there was momentum he needed to harness. But he had his mindset on that $1 million. And when Interscope wouldn't give it to him, he passed on the deal. It was an ill mistake. His error was he allowed himself to get in a zone where it was all about the money. His vision was too limited. Another factor was his environment. Philly is a big enough city, but its rapper community is pretty small. Everyone knows what the other guy's doing. Gillie probably heard what Beanie Siegel had signed for or what Philly's Most Wanted had gotten, and figured he had to hold out to be in the same league. It was the wrong way to assess the deal. Instead of focusing on what the next man got, he should have focused on the larger opportunity, which was having me get behind this project. With all my momentum, I could have given him the heat he needed and then some. I have zero doubt that with my cosign, Gillie would have ended up making way more than $1 million from Interscope. Instead, he signed somewhere else, and several years later released an album that didn't get the proper support or attention. That was pretty much it. He never had his moment despite his proven skills. Today, Gillie's a respected OG on the Philly scene and has a popular podcast, but he never experienced the level of success he should have as a rapper.
Now, Gillie Da Kid is a Philadelphia native and legend, right? Gillie Da Kid is the leader, the front man of a group called Major Figures. Major Figures was a very, very successful underground group in Philadelphia. And when I say successful, I don't mean successful I mean people used to wear their shirts to school. They used to come perform. They performed at every place that you can in Philly. Their presence on the street, the mixtape game, the lane that they created, that 50 Cent went behind them and, you know, made popular. If you don't know, Major Figures not created, because it was actually another rapper from Philly that created it, but they popularized the style of mixtape that 50 Cent used before 50 Cent ever did it. So Gillie and Major Figures had the equivalent of the buzz that 50 Cent had in New York. The main problem is Philadelphia is not New York. Philadelphia doesn't have labels there. Philadelphia doesn't have, I mean, we talking about 1998, 99, 2000. Philadelphia has next to nothing when it comes to being able to have an outlet for when you're actually hot. Because right now, the equivalent of what Gillie was doing in Philly, if any of these dudes do a quarter of that in Atlanta or Memphis right now, they're getting $1 million deal. So him turn down $1 million deal, from his perspective, it wasn't so crazy when you think about the fact that he pretty much had his city on smash. Like I said in the comments, like I said in other videos, you know what I mean? Because I made videos kind of, you know, not against Gillie, but just against stuff he was doing, because I'm a real dude. But since I'm a real dude, I got to keep it real. Gillie was really one of the people who and I've said this before, who I looked up to when I was in grade school and they was running around the city, and it just was impressive what they was doing, man. I remember people was selling Major Figures t-shirts on the avenue. I remember if you didn't have MF 2000, MF 2001, you just wasn't in it. So that whole era, everybody knew Gillie was going to be a star. It was no question of whether Gillie was going to be a star or not. It's just when and how. Gillie always had the charisma, you know, to be a full-fledged superstar. He still can be a superstar. If he's not already one, right? So not only did they create that mixtape lane that 50 Cent went and used, and I got proof. I actually have proof that 50 Cent was well aware. See, I think the story is a little skewed in the way of 50 had no clue of who Gillie was. Like, the way he says it is like he had no clue who Gillie was. It was just a favor for Cosmic Kev, which is fine. But Gillie, once again, is from a group called Major Figures. And if you go back to 50 Cent's first mixtape, he has a beat, an instrumental that he's rapping over from the group Major Figures. Now you might say, oh, you know, it's just an instrumental, like it's hot, whatever. No, but he actually took the hook from the song also. So he was well aware of what Major Figures was doing, which means he knew who Gillie was. Because in order for you to know that song and get that instrumental and then take the hook, you knew who they were. So he knew who Gillie was. It wasn't that much of a favor. It could, like, 50 knew that he kind of lifted what Philly did with Major Figures and you know, did his own thing with the mixtapes. You know what I mean? Like, people think he kind of took after Dipset, but it was both. He was well aware of what Major Figures was doing. Now, moving forward, Gillie did not pop off because of that situation. Gillie had 100 situations. 50 also misspoke when he said he was looking at the deal. He said Gillie was looking at the deal that Beanie Siegel and Major Figures got. I don't remember Major Figures ever saying they signed for a crazy amount of money. I also don't remember Beanie Siegel getting a crazy amount of money. You know how I know Beanie Siegel didn't get a crazy amount of money? because Gillie was offered the same deal by Jay-Z. The same deal that Beanie Siegel got, Gillie was offered that deal. Actually, him speaking about it publicly is part of the reason that he and Jay-Z even had beef. Now, this is alleged. That the fact that he spoke about that they was giving out 10,000 over at Rockefeller, and he publicly said he wasn't taking the deal, and he went against the people who took the deal, was part of the reason that Jay-Z himself went upon, and this is rumored, allegedly went and took it upon himself to blackball Gillie. This is the first industry enemy that Gillie created. He's got more. We'll go into it. So now Jay-Z and supposedly they had disses back and forth too. I can get into that. I can get into Do It Again. You know, they say it's for, they say that part is for the locks when he say, 3 cuts in your eyebrows, trying to wild out, said it was for Kiss and the locks. Possibly. But it was also a part that was supposedly at Major Figures. You know what I mean? It was like a 4-bar stanza. Forget exactly which part it was, but whatever. I'm sure it's on some forum. You could look it up. Gillie supposedly came back, on a Major Figures track. This is all alleged. You can go look this up. If it's not out, I'll dig deeper into it and get back to you with the exact bars, right? So he's not cool with like Jay-Z. He's on Jay-Z's hit list. Now, allegedly. So he's on Jay-Z's hit list, and this is the Joe Budden list. Let's not forget, Jay-Z allegedly also blackballed Joe Budden. He also allegedly blackballed everybody who sounded like him. It was like 3 or 4 dudes on mixtapes that sounded exactly like Jay-Z, and they all just disappeared. So we know his hand was strong if that was the case. So it's only alleged, so I can't speak on it in that way. So that could partly have to do with why Gillie was, Also, Gillie went to a label called Suave House where he did sign a deal. A down south label. It seems like stuff just, timing was bad over there or whatever it was. But he speaks about Tony Draper highly to this day. So I don't think it was no beef about why that ended. I don't know if it was Gillie's ego and all this stuff that 50 is trying to paint in his book. Well, I shouldn't say trying to paint, just seeing it from his perspective. So that didn't work out. He went over to Cash Money. Cash Money was cool. If you look and you see, the what is it? Go DJ video. Lil Wayne is wearing Gillie's chains in the video. So Gillie is doing fine. This is where I got to stop and remind you about, see, when you say Gillie turned down $1 million, he's crazy. I want you to think about this. Gillie was selling mixtapes in the street. Gillie was doing shows. Gillie had songs on the radio. Gillie was already a successful rapper. If he felt like he wanted $1 million, let me tell you, if he was from LA or New York, he would have got $1 million. I think that's the only thing he misjudged, is that Philly wasn't, a hot spot to where your buzz in the tri-state, not even the tri-state, but like just Philly, Delaware, Jersey, parts of New York. Clearly wasn't, up top like that, even though they was traveling back and forth to New York, battling, stuff like that. It's just his name wasn't ringing in New York like it was like, New Jersey, right? So I think he just underestimated how big the world was and how, small-minded the labels was at the time. Because if Gillie had that same buzz that he had in Philly back in the day, he would have gotten the $1 million that he wanted. Now, if he was somehow as hot as he was then, now, that's an easy million. That's an easy million. And please don't forget, Gillie also, with Major Figures, had the #2 song in the country for weeks and weeks with Yeah, That's Us. So To say he never had his moment, yeah, he never like lived up to his own personal potential. But he was doing his thing. Also, let's not forget, he got caught with 200 pounds of weed in a crib. So when you getting money, you know, this is all, I mean, alleged, like that's not alleged, but like allegedly he was selling it, right? Like allegedly had something going on in that realm. What I'm saying is, when you put that all in a pot, you can see why somebody would say, I need $1 million. To give up everything I'm doing, stop everything I'm doing, I need $1 million. It's underestimated how much momentum he had, because when 50 Cent say, hey, Cosmic Kev called and said, yo, he needed a favor, that sounds like, you know, that sound like Gillie was some low tier dude that just was cool with a DJ. No, DJ Cosmic Kev loved Gillie because he knew Gillie was a star and he was pushing Gillie. Always. There's a few people that Cosmic Kev love, and I know because I'm from Philly, and Gillie is at the top of Cosmic Kev's list of people he loves. Not because they grew up together, not because they homies, but because he believes in Gillie. This is the top radio DJ in the city of Philadelphia. Had the city on smash. Come Up show is legendary. From the jails to the streets. And Gillie ran all through that motherfucker with major figures, you know what I'm saying, as well as Beanie Siegel and, you know what I mean, a few other cats, man. Shout out to, you know, everybody in Philly that was running around at that time. There's a lot of people with talent, but we focusing on Gillie right now. So yeah, so he's at Cash Money, and now when he left Cash Money, once again he made some enemies. He called out Lil Wayne for, you know, jacking his style, to say the least. And so now you're enemies with Birdman. We don't even have to allege that. Like, Birdman is like, come on, this is Birdman. Let's allegedly, you know, Birdman would put the word out about Gillie. You know how it go. Lil Wayne's the hottest thing on the planet. I don't have to make any of this up, because DJ Drama himself said on Gillie's podcast with Wallow, $1 million worth of game, I couldn't finish the Gangsta Grills with you, Gillie. This is what DJ Drama is saying, because you dissed Lil Wayne, and me and Lil Wayne had my most successful tape. He said that himself. So even if Birdman didn't turn around and put the crooks in the game on Gillie, Lil Wayne doesn't like Gillie, which means the entire rap game can't like Gillie. Right? You got to think about who Lil Wayne is around this time. 06, 07, that, like 08, 09. Like, come on. So you got Jay-Z, allegedly. Birdman, Lil Wayne, allegedly. You know, enemies in the industry. These are the three of the worst enemies you can have in the music industry. I mean, all 50 Cent had was Irv Gotti. Irv Gotti was on his bumper, and he still had issues getting to labels. And he lived in New York. So think about how hard Gillie would have to do to maneuver around Jay-Z, Birdman, and Lil Wayne. Feel what I'm saying? So the story wasn't entirely, like, 50 told his perspective, but I'm giving you the perspective of somebody who was, you know, the age of a Gillie fan in the when he was on his come up. No, Gillie could have definitely finagled $1 million today. I don't know about then, but top 5 buzzes in the city of all time, Philadelphia. Beanie Siegel didn't have a buzz until he signed. Like people, I heard him, but it wasn't. Beanie Siegel had no crazy buzz till he signed. Bubonic was flaming. See what I'm saying? Oskino. You know what I mean? Who else? A whole bunch of dudes, man. The Pretty Uglies, the It's a lot of dudes, man. It's a lot of dudes. It's a whole lot of dudes. Cassidy. Gillie had a top 5 all-time buzz in Philadelphia, and that's being generous. He might have been Meek Mill. Like before Meek, Gillie was the self-proclaimed king of the city. And I say self-proclaimed because Cassidy is pretty much the only person that had a problem with him saying that. So you got to understand, when you got your city on smash like that, you can make these type of demands. But once again, it's Philadelphia, so it's always going to get oversighted and, overlooked. And, Philadelphia has had its shortcomings. And that's why I doing the series I'm doing on, Philadelphia hip hop and, just his influence and things of that nature. Because, man, from the outside looking in, you would think Philadelphia ain't got the superstars, but it's a lot of crooks in the game, and we're gonna show. And a lot of people took a lot of flavor from Philly, including 50 Cent. So, in conclusion, it didn't happen exactly like that. It wasn't like he missed his opportunity. He had 600 opportunities. He had 28 record deals. He even signed a deal for his mixtapes later on down the line, like Baby Grand or some cool shit like that, Land Speed or some shit. Right? So he had 100 deals. That wasn't the issue. Maybe his ego definitely played a part in everything that happened. But at the end of the day, Gillie was always going to be a superstar, and he ended up being a superstar with $1 million worth of games. So, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't know if what 50 Cent is saying is entirely true. I just know from his perspective, I could see it. So I'm not going to call him out on it. But yeah, I'm going to stop talking, man. I don't know. It's my first time using this mic pause, so I just probably was rambling a little bit because I'm used to, I don't know, I get used to it. It's the guy Gillie repping Gillie.com. That was whatever the fuck that was. Just, I don't know, me talking real shit about Gillie and his come up, and yeah, that's it. We out here. Let's get it.
They asking if I'm really real. Do Mercedes make Benz, nigga? New York niggas wear Timbs, nigga. Jordan Peele make films, 26 letters and I'm focused on the W. Come see about us, maybe you and I could get the M's.
Real shit.
Yeah.